Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to see you. Well, I can't actually see any of you because it's a webinar, but you can see me, and I want to welcome you to this amazing event to celebrate Onjali Q. Rauf's wonderful, important and brilliant new book, The Night Bus Hero. My name's Emily Drabble and I'm from Book Trust, which is a charity devoted to getting children from all backgrounds reading. And if you want to know more about that, you can check out the website www.booktrust.org.uk, and you'll find loads of reviews and other wonderful interviews and other bits and bobs, including stuff from Onjali herself. So now I know most of you here have read Onjali's book, The Boy at the Back of the Class, and you can see a copy of it there on my shelf, proudly on my shelf, and also The Star Outside My Window. And I'm sure these books made you think a lot, as well as being brilliantly enjoyable reads. So here we are to celebrate her new book, The Night Bus Hero, which is absolutely brilliant, as you're going to find out. I am lucky enough to have actually read it because I got a proof. It looks a bit different from the copy you're going to get, but it's a wonderful book. So in a second, Onjali's going to come on and join us, and she's going to tell us all about her book and what it's about and why she wrote it. And we also have some really interesting people, really interesting special guests who have devoted their careers and lives to helping homeless people and are actually trying to stop the problem of homelessness. So I'm so excited to meet them. Tomorrow is World Homeless Day, and we're going to get a chance to find out what these charities do and how they help, and also what you can do to help and join in. And there's going to be time to ask your questions at the end. So we can't see you guys, although you can see us. So we can read your questions, and the best way to pose them is, if you see at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat function. I can see some of you using that chat already. And you can also see the Q&A. I think that's the best place to put your questions, is in the Q&A button, but otherwise you can just put it in the chat. I'll make sure I look, and from about 5:15, maybe a bit earlier, we'll be answering your questions. So make sure you get in your brilliant questions. I'm sure you've got loads. Also, I want to tell you something brilliant before we begin. Everyone who's at this event today gets an exclusive £2 discount on the book. They have to use the code DING, one word, when they buy from waterstones.com. So that would be great to do that. And also to say that anyone buying this book is already supporting all the causes and charities that are here today, because Onjali has very generously donating a large percentage of her profits to these charities. So without further ado, let's bring everyone on. I'm very excited. There's Onjali.
Hello.
Everyone's coming on, great. So I'm going to just introduce people, and then we're going to hear from Onjali. So if you can wave when I say your name.
We're together then.
And if you put yourself on mute, yeah. Lorraine, we have Lorraine and Rafaela from a charity called Lola's Homeless. They can give us
Hello everyone.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for inviting us.
They're going to tell us all about their charity in a bit. We have Dan Atkins and Henrietta, or Hen, McEwen from Buses for Homeless. If you can both wave as well.
Hi guys.
Great. We're really excited to get to know you. We have Laura Hillier, who works for DePaul as part of the Night Stop UK team. And we have Polly Neat, who is from the charity Shelter, who runs that.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me.
And of course, we have Onjali Q. Rauf, who is amazing. So Onjali, I want you to tell us about your new book. What's it about? And what is your inspiration for writing it?
Right, hi, hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us. So my new book is The Night Bus Hero, which you all know because you all pressed that ticket button. And The Night Bus Hero features a bully called Hector, who encounters a homeless man who lives in the park, the local park. And Hector, being Hector, decides that for reasons of his own to go after this homeless man. Now this homeless man's name is Thomas, and Thomas is based on a real homeless man that I met when I was just 14. station, and I would see Thomas sleeping by the steps of my local police station on my way to school. And I was really too frightened and too shy to say hello or to go up to him or anything like that. So I would just pass him by. I had a massive fringe that I would hide behind and just kind of stare at him as I walked past. But he would notice me. Of course, he would notice a short, pudgy Asian girl just staring at him as she walked past him every day. So he began to wave. And after he waved, I thought, oh, he seems so lovely. But I was still very shy. So what I started to do was every day from my lunchbox, from whatever my mum packed in my bag, I would leave him a gift. I would just run up to him and leave him like a squashed packet of Jaffa cakes or a banana or a bottle of water, whatever I had on me, and just run away again. And this went on for a good few years. I moved from school to college, and luckily he used to sleep by my bus stop. So the police station was right by the bus stop. And when I was about 16 or 17, I noticed that he wasn't there anymore. He wasn't sleeping by the police station. And it went on for a few days, and I got really worried, and I mustered up the courage to go into the police station and ask, have you seen the man who sleeps here by the steps? And the answer I got really devastated me. They told me that he had died a few nights ago, and I asked for the first time what his name was, and they said, oh, we don't really know, but everyone called him Thomas. So Thomas in this book is kind of based on the Thomas that I knew, and in some ways was a silent friend to and silent friends with. And after Thomas's death, I started to work for various charities. He really inspired me to go and learn about homelessness and to try and understand the various degrees of it. So the story really was born from this wonderful man who I never had the courage to ask any questions to, and whose story I really wish I'd gotten to know before he passed away, and I really wish I'd been able to help a little bit more as well. So it's written in hope, and I'm really hoping that it will help us start to address homelessness, both in our local communities and on a wider scale, and also learn about some of the fantastic charities that are out there, some of whom are with us here today. So that's the book in a nutshell. But also there's a spate of robberies that are happening across London. So the homeless community are being blamed for it, and it's up to Hector, the bully, to try and figure out what's going on. So let's see if he can pull himself up and show the world what he's really made of.
Thank you, Onjali. Well, I am a very privileged person because I've already read Night Bus Hero, and unlike everyone else, because it's not actually out until today, and it's so brilliant. It's just amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful book, and you are an incredible author. So let's find out who some of these lovely people are. Let's start with Dan and Hen. Whichever of you wants to go first, from Buses for Homeless. Dan and Hen, will you tell us what your charity is and who you are?
Hi guys, and thanks ever so much, Emily, and obviously Onjali. Thank you so much, everybody out there that's watching in this little Zoom conference. Thank you very much for joining us. Buses for Homeless kind of says what it does on the tin. We upcycle decommissioned buses into eating, sleeping, learning and well-being spaces in order to transform and rehabilitate homeless people's lives. Now, it's really interesting that Onjali mentioned Thomas. Everybody has a story out on the streets, and you know, it's fantastic. And what we want to do is help as many Thomases as possible as we can. And it's such a pleasure and a privilege being here and surrounded by these lovely ladies and the amazing organizations that are supporting homeless people. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Dan. Hen, do you have anything to add to that at this point?
Yeah, I'm just going to add that obviously, hello everybody, and thank you very, very much for having us here today. It's amazing to be with you all, and I wish we could see you all, but unfortunately we can't at the moment. But, you know, to Onjali, I cannot wait to read the book. It sounds absolutely incredible. It really does, and I know that everyone will thoroughly enjoy it. Echoing exactly what Dan has said, and also the fact that I think everybody at some point in their lives will meet somebody who's homeless. It's just the way that things are. And if you can brighten somebody's day by just saying hello to them, Onjali, like you did, you know, when you got up the courage to do it, and just say hello. And, you know, a kind word is always taken on by everybody every day.
Thank you very much, Hen.
Can I just ask Dan to show us where you are, Dan, because you're actually on one of your fantastic, both of you are on one of these fantastic buses.
So I'm on the bus for dining. Up here is obviously primary function dining room, but we also have games nights as well as art classes. Back there's a PlayStation, jigsaws and everything like that. We have the sleeping bus behind me, the well-being space on this bus here, and Hen is on the learning bus. Where she
I'm waving.
Amazing. I love it.
How do people get to be on your bus? Can anyone turn up? Anyone who's homeless turn up and be on your bus?
No, we work through a referral service, Pan London. So people are referred to us. So we work with all sorts of different organisations, and the lovely care workers and caseworkers who are working with the homeless will refer them to us. So that's how we work.
And we're more of an intensive program. So the guys come to us for anywhere between 3 to 6 months, maybe even more. And we work out how and why they've become homeless in the first place. We support them, we care from them, because each person, and essentially what we're doing is creating a humanistic approach to solving this issue, because when we treat people like humans, that they deserve and respect that. And that's where we start, and that's the basis and foundations of our program.
Thank you so much. There was a question just quickly. Where are the buses parked? Where are they? You're on mute.
Somewhere in London. Only the night girl knows.
Great. Okay, Laura, will you please tell us about your charity, DePaul Night Stop?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura. I'm from DePaul, UK. It's really great to be here, and thanks for having me. So DePaul, UK works with young people facing homelessness and is part of a sort of bigger international group of charities. We work in 4 different areas of the UK and provide a range of services to young people facing homelessness. So it could be supported accommodation, mediation, like counselling, mental health support, help with getting into education and training and employment. We also run a schools programme that delivers workshops to students to build their knowledge about homelessness and the sort of help that's available if they need it. And then we also oversee the Night Stop network, which is run by the Night Stop UK team that I'm a part of. So if you've not heard of it before, the Night Stop scheme offers emergency accommodation to young people facing homelessness in the spare rooms of vetted and trained volunteers. They're just amazing, and the aim of the scheme is to prevent young people from having to sleep rough in the first place. So while they stay with their Night Stop hosts, Night Stop staff and other professionals will look at sorting out a longer term solution for that young person. So when a young person's staying with the host, they can expect their own comfortable, safe, warm, private room, hot meal in the evening, a chance to shower, wash their clothes, and sort of really importantly, a listening ear if they need it. And just to say, really, our hosts have been absolutely amazing throughout coronavirus and lockdown. They've really gone over and above. They're just wonderful. Lots of them have done longer placements than usual, offered to host young people through the day. And yeah, just really cannot overstate enough how much we appreciate them. They're amazing. So yeah, thank you very much for having me, and thank you to Onjali for raising sort of awareness of DePaul and Night Stop. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Laura. That sounds absolutely an amazing charity. Polly, will you please tell us about your charity, Shelter?
Yeah, hi everyone. I've been looking at the messages popping up in the chat and everyone talking about what big Onjali fans they are. And I'm quite a big Onjali fan myself. So yeah, I'm with you there, everybody. So we, Shelter exists to defend the right to a safe home. That's how we sort of describe ourselves. And we work right across the country in different communities. And a couple of the different things we do, because we do a lot of things. One of the things we do is it's incredibly frightening when you're homeless on the streets. It's very difficult to trust people. And we give jobs in Shelter to people who've been homeless. And then we train them up, and they then go out and do outreach with people who are homeless now on the street. And we find that that's a really good way of building up that trust and really getting people into a place where they can get support, and kind of breaking through that fear and that mistrust, because they can see when somebody's been through the same thing as them. It's much better than me going out and talking to people. It's much better for somebody they can really relate to. So that's one thing we do. another thing we do is we work with a lot of families. You might think that there aren't any homeless children, but actually there are. They're not on the streets, but they're in places like hostels, not very nice bed and breakfast hotels. And one of the things we do is we work with families who are homeless, who are often in bed and breakfast, often all living in one room. And it can be quite a scary environment. It's very difficult for children. They don't want to have friends back to play. They don't want to tell anybody that they're homeless. And so we do a lot of work with homeless families. And of course, perhaps like the main thing in a way is we try and prevent people from becoming homeless in the first place. So we have an emergency helpline that anyone can ring if you're worried that you might lose your home. We would urge people to get in touch with shelter first before that happens. And we will do our very, very best to help you to avoid a situation where you become homeless. And also to try and stop people becoming homeless in the first place. I think a really important thing about shelter is that we're also a campaign. So we campaign relentlessly. We try and make as much noise as possible on behalf of homeless people or people who are at risk of homelessness. We try and get the government to do the right thing. We try to get other people with power to do the right thing. And we have thousands and thousands of people around the country who are campaigning with us. They write letters for us to their MPs. They do demonstrations. They really help us with our campaigns. And that's really important to us as well. So we help people directly and provide support, and we also campaign for change, because I think we'll all agree that what we would really like is a world where people weren't at risk of becoming homeless. And we really want to try and, we don't want to just say how bad it is, we really want to change it.
Thank you so much, Polly. That is absolutely brilliant. Thank you, and fascinating. And now I'll go to Lorraine and Raffaella, who are going to tell us all about their charity, Lola's Homeless. Thank you.
Oh yeah, first of all, thank you. And I can't wait to read the book, and this is amazing. She's seen firsthand with us. I've roped her into volunteering. So she's tasted a little bit of Lola's Homeless. I started it 5 years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have a base. I work from a garage and my home, but that's hopefully going to change soon. We feed, we clothe, we support, we go to hospital appointments with the guys, but we don't just leave them there. We wait till they're into accommodation, and then we try to fully furnish it for them. So I'm sure many of you know they get given a room, it's just got a bed there. So we supply the lamps, the mirrors, whatever the community can give, and I've got the volunteers that can supply it. That's what we do. But all this started because I met a young girl called Chloe in Stratford, actually 5 years ago on the 17th of November. And it was a hospital blanket, mint green, on a pile on the floor. And I just thought somebody had dumped a blanket there. And I was having my lunch in Burger King, and I was watching down, and all of a sudden the blanket started to move. And something like you say, you went and spoke to Thomas or waved at Thomas or fed Thomas. I was the same. I'd always just pass by and bought a coffee or a sandwich. I didn't know how to approach a homeless person until I met my Chloe. And since then, we've got thousands of Chloes. So, yeah, that's a bit about us. And what else would you like to say?
I'm very excited for this launch book. I think it's something we are looking forward to not just read your story, but because we know you are and what you're putting through all this. Like all your work, all your heart is very warm, you're very kind.
Yes.
Okay, we can make a long list of very good things about you. But we're also very tired because we've been working very, very hard, volunteering very hard all together, including you. You came to us and you helped us a lot. Everyone, the family, the volunteers, the friends, the community is all together because tomorrow is World Homeless Day. And of course, we cannot end homeless tomorrow, but COVID did a big part.
Yes.
For us, it's been, sorry, for lots of people, COVID has been like really, really.
We're lucky. We are lucky.
We consider I've changed homelessness from one point of view, which is not temporary, but the homeless that were in the street homeless, they wanted help and they want to be helped, and at the moment they have a roof on their head. So
Newham only have about 3 people on the streets because we've, like shelter, we've campaigned, and I've done it day and night. I've been onto the council, I've been onto the mayor, I've even sent emails to Boris. I'm still waiting for a reply. You know, I took Sean Bailey out with me last week. I showed him what it was about. He see it with his own eyes. I've had Rory Stewart sleep over in my living room just to be heard. Just let them know what's going on, the real problems that we face. And the borough that we're in is Newham, which has got we haven't no more. We were the highest in the UK.
Exactly.
And I know every single one of them homeless people. I don't think there's one person out there that we don't know. No. Whether it's been a cup of coffee, whether it's been
helping us
for an army. So I think Lorraine and Rafaela there are completely underselling what they do. This woman, she will get a call at 3 in the morning and she will run down to her garage and get anything she needs in the dark of night in one of the most scariest areas, I think, of Newham, and go out there and help whoever needs the help. She will both of them will drive around at 2, 3 in the morning, making sure that there's no one on the streets, or if there is anyone on the streets, they're going to get help. They are absolutely phenomenal, and they have absolutely no funding. They do this all from community organization, like all community groups just getting together and trying to help them out. And I think they're pretty phenomenal. And I wish that there were more people in Parliament like you guys. I mean,
we need a building
day if you were there.
If there's somebody watching, or buses like you, Dan, you know, I've watched your videos. I'm a fan. You know, we just need a base. We need somebody to give us that chance. And I'm fed up begging the council. I'm fed up, you know. It should be a given that you get help. Yes. Basic help,
Thank you so much. We're going to talk more about how people can join in and help in a bit later in this panel as well. So thank you so much, Lorraine and Rafaela. You do incredible work. All of you do. So thank you so much. I now want to really ask Onjali to do a little reading from her books. I think that would be so lovely. Should we all snuggle up and listen to Onjali?
Get a tea. Get a tea and a cup of tea and a biscuit. She's got a blanket. I love that. Right. So I'm going to read from, I think it's chapter... I haven't named the chapters, which is really helpful for me, from the Trolley Man, which is page 20 for anybody who has it. So I'm just going to give you some background. Hector, as we know, is a bit of a bully and he's had a really bad day and he feels as if his friends aren't taking him seriously. So something is about to happen with regards to Thomas, the homeless man. Okay, so here we go. What a sore loser, Fake whispered Will. Right, Fake whispered Katie. You think it was our fault he's not fast enough anymore. My hands rolled up into fists and the top of my head felt as hot as a barbecue with fresh lit coals in it. I wanted to turn around and push Will and Katie as hard as I could so they wouldn't dare say any of the things they were saying ever again. We reached the top of the hill where an old bench stood beneath the oak trees, and that's when I spotted him, the old man. I'd seen him there before. Lots of times, sitting on the bench next to a trolley piled high with rubbish. He was in his usual long, old, crumply black coat that looked as if it had been pulled out from a bin, and was wearing the bright yellow woolly hat he always had on his head, even in summer. And without even trying, I had the most genius idea that had ever been born. In fact, it was so genius and so out of the box and so unexpected that I knew it would be enough to make Will and Katie shut up once and for all. I stopped walking, which made Will and Katie automatically stop too. Will looked at me blankly, but Katie's eyebrows immediately jumped up as if to say, yeah, and what? Want to have some fun? I asked. Will nodded, a smile breaking across his face and making him look like a hungry fox that had sniffed a chicken coop up ahead. See that old man there? I asked, pointing towards the bench. You mean the old trolley man? Asked Katie. We're going to let him know he's not allowed here anymore. How? Whispered Katie, leaning in towards me. She pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose. I waited for a few seconds to keep them guessing, and then whispered back, I'm going to take his hat. stop there. So you have to find out if he does actually manage to take Thomas's hat.
It's quite shocking, isn't it, really? I find it shocking to read. So Hector, your main character, he starts out at least to seem like not a very nice boy, as we've just heard. He's a bully, he's rude, and he does this horrible thing. Nobody likes him. Why did you decide to make him the hero of your book and mix together these themes of bullying and homelessness, Onjali?
I thought it was quite natural to mix the themes of bullying and homelessness, because I think everyone here will agree that anybody who becomes homeless, whether they're sleeping on our streets here in the UK, whether they're a refugee overseas, or whether they're a woman and child fleeing domestic violence, all of them at some level will face harassment and abuse and bullying because of what they're going through. And unfortunately, although I saw Thomas and wanted to be nice to him, I did see other children my age kind of just making fun of him, and kind of, you know, and other people in the streets of London sometimes. And it was really hurtful. And I wanted to show that actually, you know, everyone has a chance for redemption. Everybody has a chance to kind of assess what it is they're doing, and even the worst person, because Hector is not a nice person. It was really hard to write him, actually, and there's some scenes where I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. But I just wanted to show that actually even someone like that can learn that actually there's a human being in front of you, and that is, this human being comes with a story that deserves a little bit of respect, and actually you can turn yourself around, you can make that change, and hopefully help that person out. So no one's a lost cause, and I'm hoping that Hector and his kind of, hopefully his redemption, we don't, you know, quite know, is going to inspire some people to think, yeah, I can be a much better person, or be as good as Hector later on in the book.
Thank you. Absolutely, yes. So in this book, we really get to know Thomas, who is the trolley man, and a woman called the Catwoman. Yeah. And other homeless people as real characters, and not just people to feel sorry for, but real people. So was this a really important part of the book for you, Onjali? Yeah,
absolutely. I wanted to have real, you know, really beautiful, wonderful human beings who just happen to be homeless. So there's a soup kitchen in the book, and that was inspired by Brixton Soup Kitchen, who I list at the back of the book. The night bus had to be in there because I learnt about Dan and Hen's amazing works on a news channel one day, and I was like, oh my god, this is absolutely amazing. Of course we've got to put a bus in there. And then there was, you know, articles about homeless people having to sleep on buses, of course, at night time, especially in winter, to try and keep themselves warm. And the Catwoman, you know, I think there's a lot of surprise when it comes to homeless people actually having families with homes, and they're not living with these families. So I wanted to put a character in there who, you know, did have a family but just couldn't stay with them because of the things that she'd been through. So all of these beautiful human beings are based on real stories that I've heard throughout my years working for various charities. And at the end of it, I wanted everyone to feel like, oh my god, that could be anyone we know, which is the case with everyone who becomes homeless, in whatever form. So yeah, that's where all these brilliant characters came from. They've been inspired by everyone right here in this talk, so in one form or another, which is yeah. And I think the people helping them out, the volunteers, they're definitely based on the people in this talk. So if you spot someone just a bit like you, yeah, you're in there.
So Onjali, have you been actually working with and hanging out with lots of the people here? You actually do know everyone here?
I know. I've gotten to know Lorraine and Rafi over, I mean, ironically over COVID, because it was the first time I couldn't go out to the refugee camps. I couldn't do anything. I felt completely homeless, and I've heard about her through the grapevine. I just thought, oh my god, let me just see and go and help out if I can. And then I thought, wow, she needs to be in the book. Like, her story needs to be in that book, and just to let people know that there's a phenomenal woman doing all of this stuff. And Dan and Hen, as I said, I've known about them for about a year and a bit. I saw a BBC News story on them, and then I kind of researched Dan and Hen as well, and just thought, I need to get in touch with these guys. So we've been trying to meet, but it's just not happened. And I think it's such a weird year for trying to meet anyway. But it's been lovely to get to know them just through emails. Polly, I've known when she was heading the ship that is Women's Aid and doing phenomenal works, trying to rescue and save women and children. And they're part of the invisible homeless, you know, the homeless people we don't see. As she said, there are children out there who are homeless but are living in B&Bs. They're not on the streets, but we think they're not homeless because they're in a B&B. So you know, so I've gotten to know her through then, and we haven't been in touch for a good few years because she's been so busy saving the world. But yeah, it's been lovely to get back in touch with her. And Laura, Laura, I've just literally recently met a couple of days ago, but I got to know Night Stop and their phenomenal works through a friend of mine called Jude Habib, who's a host. So she just suddenly randomly says, oh, I've got this amazing homeless person who's come to stay tonight. I can't wait for them to come in, and I'm going to do all this stuff for them. And I was like, oh my God, you know, this is amazing. You're offering your spare room to someone who needs a space for the night. And she really opened my eyes as to what Night Stop do. So in some way or another, I've gotten to know them. And I think it'd probably be a bit scary for them if they knew how well I know them without actually meeting them. But it's been lovely to get to know them.
Thank you so much. So, Onjali, as you were finishing writing this book during lockdown, because you started it just before and then must have been finishing it off while it happened, something, as you've hinted about Lorraine, something amazing happened. About 72 hours after lockdown happened, most homeless people were actually housed. So we realised that it was actually possible to help homeless people get off the street, and actually, even though governments have always said it's completely impossible, it actually was possible. So now we know it's possible, how does this change things? Polly, can I start with you to answer that? Put yourself off mute, yeah. Oh, Polly, you're on mute.
I was actually typing an answer in the Q&A when you asked me that question, which is really embarrassing. But there was just such good questions in there, and I just wanted to kind of type some answers in. So you're going to have to remind me of the last bit of your question. I'm really sorry.
Sorry, my question was, so because of lockdown, most homeless people were housed.
That's right. Yes, they were.
Whereas previously, politicians were saying that's actually an impossible problem to sort out. So how does it change things? How does what happened?
So Everyone In was what it was called, and the government, I mean, there was a phenomenal effort, I should say, by a lot of local charities and local councils when the government decided that it was too dangerous to have rough sleepers on the streets. I should say they did not find a home for all homeless people. They found hotel rooms for rough sleepers temporarily during lockdown. Now that was a good thing to do, but I don't want us to run away with the idea that it's ended homelessness or anything like that. Also, there isn't a massive mystery to it, in the sense that they put a lot of money into it, which is brilliant. It was more money than has ever been given before to ending the issue of rough sleeping. Sorry, there was a very loud car horn outside my house just then. I don't know if you could hear it. So there wasn't a mystery to it. It was a really good thing to do. The problem we've got, of course, is that we already have a huge number of people waiting for housing in this country. A lot of them are homeless, as I said, a lot of them in bed and breakfast, hostels, and rough sleeping, and sofa surfing, sleeping with friends and relatives, not knowing where they're going to spend the next night, sleeping in their car. There are a huge number of people who don't have a safe home in this country, and that was already the case before the pandemic. So what we've got really is the pandemic has now come into what was already a massive housing crisis, and we've now got people who were rough sleeping who have to come out of hotels because they can't stay in there permanently, and they're coming into a situation that was already at a crisis point. And the root problem is that we are not building homes in this country that people who don't earn a lot of money can actually afford to live in. And that's really at the root cause of homelessness, because you've got a situation where many people in our country, and this includes people who, you know, we've been outside our doors clapping every Thursday evening during lockdown, hospital porters, care workers, other people on low incomes, simply cannot afford anywhere to rent where they and their families can live. And that's the root cause of the problem. So yes, the government has done stuff during lockdown to make sure that people aren't on the streets, but we still have a really acute problem of unaffordability of homes. That is what is ultimately leading people to become homeless, and then all the associated trauma and vulnerability that comes with being homeless.
Thank you so much, Polly. That's brilliant.
I don't want to be, it's not a very cheerful answer, I'm afraid.
Not very cheerful, but has anyone got anything to add, or should we go on to the next question, or do you think did Polly say it all there? Lorraine,
I just,
Dan.
It's all right, Dan, you go first.
Dan first,
You got there first.
Sorry,
Dan first,
you first. I'll be a gentleman.
All right,
All
Laura
right.
first.
Okay, sure. I was just going to say that I think one impact that we've seen at Night Stop, of kind of all the media coverage around sort of the Everybody In initiative and housing people in the hotels, we've been really heartened to see the strong sort of response from potential new volunteers in the community. I think one sort of possible silver lining of the pandemic is that it's brought the issue more to the forefront, and at a time where you're thinking that perhaps the idea of opening your home to a stranger might not be the most appealing in a pandemic, but people are still coming forward and offering to help in just such a simple way that's definitely one impact I've seen. We thought that volunteer inquiries would totally dry up, and if anything, I'd say it's been the opposite.
Amazing. Dan, do you want to add your bit?
Yeah, so I think one other silver lining is that local authorities and other charities have actually spent a lot of time and resources actually understanding the people that are on the streets as well. So that's hugely beneficial as well. The pandemic is obviously going to make homelessness coming up a huge issue as well. So there needs to be some forward thoughts with policy and solutions going forward and into that as well.
Thank you so much, Dan. In the book, Onjali, homeless people are made out to be baddies for stealing all those wonderful statues. Do you think that blame happens in real life? And what are the kind of incorrect assumptions people make about homeless people that they may see or read about? Onjali, what do you think?
Oh God, that's such a good question. I think there's a capacity, there's an instinct within all communities to blame whoever you can for any problem that you're having. So whether it's refugees, or whether it's a homeless community, or whether it's a particular community of a certain race or faith or whatever it is, it's almost like a go-to response for things that are going bad in your life. And I think there's a lot of stigma and really unfair, horrible assumptions about homeless people, that somehow they've chosen to be on the streets. This is their fault. They've somehow landed themselves in their own problems, so they need to sort it out themselves. And all of that needs to be tackled. I think the deeper roots of homelessness are not even spoken about most times. We don't talk about, okay, so someone's scared of someone being drunk, but then why are they depending on drink? If someone's, taking drugs, why are they taking drugs? There's always a story behind the reason for the people perceiving them in a certain way. And it's so important that we really strip away all of those fears and all of those assumptions and those really judgmental stances that people take to anyone who's vulnerable and anyone who's in trouble. And all of these guys do that every single day by stripping away those facades of issues and getting to the core of what's going on with these human beings who have been through quite a lot. It takes a lot for you to reach that stage where you're having to sleep on a street or being in a B&B and facing just an empty wall. And it's really crucial we start to do that and we not be afraid to talk about it. I don't think we talk about it enough yet.
That's why your book's so important, Onjali. Lorraine and Raffaella, I feel like you've got something to contribute to this. You must have seen, because you work so closely with people in your community, you must have seen people being treated really badly, blamed for things.
Well, that is probably one of the reasons I continued, because I started to do this for Christmas, and then I did an event, and then, not that I want to go over old times, but you're saying like how they get treated. Our old mayor actually gave them all an ASBO and told them to leave the borough.
Just tell us what an ASBO is, Lorraine, because some of the younger listeners might not know what an ASBO is.
Right, it's an antisocial behaviour. Like when you're naughty, you get told off by your teacher or the policeman. Well, when you're homeless and you don't have a bed to sleep in, the police can't do anything to you, so then the local council will come along and tell you you can't sleep there. So at 4:05 in the morning, they came along and they told every homeless person to get out of Stratford Shop. Death of a homeless man. My Pepe, he died, so everybody else had to leave and go out in minus, I think it was -3 that night.
Cold,
yeah, it was -3 that night. So they was all put out on the streets, slept in the graveyard. 2 people ended up in hospital with hypothermia. And I thought, you know what? I'm not stopping here. I'm continuing. I'm going to fight this till we've got no homeless in my borough. And I can say very, very proudly, I'm known as a very gobby lady, but it's because I like to come across like that, you know what I mean? But I may not have a building, but I've got quite a lot of power in the borough now. I'm being listened to. I go to task force meetings and I actually on the panel to make decisions, what happens with the homeless. And COVID was the icing on the cake. We had 17 tents in just one part of Stratford. Yeah, we had 6 here, 6 there. There was bodies everywhere. People from up north, other councils were sending them to us. Go to Stratford. There's an inside place there. You can sleep there. Come from Newcastle. We've had them from Newcastle, Glasgow, Birmingham, Edinburgh. These are all landing in Stratford. Yeah, that's a shopping centre. It's not a homeless hub. Yeah. In our borough, we didn't have hardly anything in our borough. Yes, we had a local seaman mission that turned into a homeless place many years ago, which I think 140 people sleep in there. We had our night shelters, which is only 15 people. But other than that, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've campaigned, and I'm proudly saying now, they've listened to me, they've opened up a woman's shelter. I'm not allowed to say where, but that's opened and we'll be visiting it tomorrow for women only, straight from the street. They opened up a hub, yes, a temporary hub, you know, but we don't want temporary. We want permanent and we need to end this. But like my last word, we were the people that actually took them off the streets. During the pandemic, we opened up and we went and worked for 3 days constantly, day and night. We didn't stop. We rounded up every homeless person that we could find and we sent them to that Dockland Centre. And we read and I've had an email from the mayor and from the commissioner. Our homeless are not going back on the street.
Thank you, Lorraine.
I'm telling you, they're not going back on the street.
They are.
Very, very good. Now, listen, I know, and there's loads of questions coming in. I know the main question that everyone's got to ask is, what can I do? You know, especially if I'm a kid. You know, in your book, Onjali, that you've got a lovely character, May Lee, who actually works in her dad's soup kitchen. She can directly volunteer, and actually Hector ends up being there as well. But what can young people do? That you feel so helpless to, so what should you do? First of all, I'm going to ask Laura.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to do would be, I mean, kind of like Onjali described, if you see a homeless person, just sort of be nice, be kind and say hello, because often sort of homeless people are treated as invisible. They might not have had any sort of kind or positive contact that day, and just something small like that can make a difference. And then maybe I'd sort of recommend talking to either your sort of parents, guardian, carers, or your teacher, but perhaps you could put on an event with other young people, or perhaps you could all challenge each other to write your own story about homelessness. Yeah, something like that to raise awareness, really, and look and see what charities there are operating in your local area and see if there's ways you could help them.
What about giving money to people who are homeless? Is that a good thing to do, or is it better to donate to charities, really? Dan and Hen, if you could answer that, and also tell me what you other things people can do.
I think, you know, from our point of view, money, you know, not always the best idea to do. You know, as we've said, you know, donations of food are great, clothing's good, especially with the winter coming up. You know, if you see somebody on the street, beanies, you know, gloves, blankets, especially things that they can, you know, lie on if they can't get into any shelter. I mean, we don't know what the situation is going to be in the next few months. Another thing that we've just recently launched over the last couple of months, we've launched our community bus. which now goes out into the community twice a week at the moment, and we are increasing it. But we've been getting amazing donations of toiletries, again, like I said, beanies, hats, gloves, blankets, jackets that we can actually give out and help people with, and sleeping bags.
And 10,000 masks soon to be delivered to the people on the streets. So
and sanitizer as well, which is something
to come to them.
Yeah.
And be night heroes.
So just to add, Lorraine and Rafi, do you want to say anything to this? Because Rafi has actually just, I don't know if she's still doing it, but on her birthday, the woman was sewing masks, endless masks for how many? 500? I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, 500.
500.
Yes.
Amazing.
Can I also add, totally echo Laura's, what Laura said in regards to, you can't change the world, but you can change one person's world. By giving your time, that's far more beneficial and more valuable to most people than money. And that's really the main point, is just compassion and care. Most feel invisible on the streets, and that's terrible.
I think.
Wait, you're speaking.
No, go for it. I was going to come to you anyway.
I was saying, I think more than of course, this how you call it, like sensibilize everyone about the problem of homeless and everything. I'll make an example of my son. He's 9 years old, well, almost 10. We were passing by this homeless person. He knows I help everyone. So saying, Mom, give me £5 at least. And I say, why do you need £5? Because he never asked me money in his life. Never. He goes, because I want to give it to that man because he's on the street, Mom. I say, but Stefano, why £5? You know, we don't give money to homeless, and you know the reason why. Because I told him they could buy drugs with it, they could drink, they could, it could be a problem for them if you give him just clearly money like that. And he was saying to me, Mom, today a sandwich costs more. If you put the sandwich, a crisp, and a Coke, and some sweet, and something to make him feel good, it'll be more than £5. So you're being tight.
That's definitely a step.
Yeah. So the other day we went and he said, how about you give me those £5? And I got for him a mask, because first of all, he need to be protected, because even if he's got an hostel or he's in hotel temporary, or he's got something where he can sleep, he still need to go out, and he probably want to go out to see someone that he met in the street before. And then sanitizer gel, because he need also, because he won't have water man when he's on the street. He will need to wash his hand and make sure he hasn't touched no one, maybe with the COVID, because he's really concerned about this COVID. I think even at school, there's a big campaign, also us, because I'm Italian particularly, we're wearing masks everywhere, so we're very concerned too, like everyone. So he told me this stuff, and I was like, okay, maybe giving money in that sense, if you spend it for that, it makes sense. So it depends how we're locating this money. That's it's not directly to the homeless, but for example, the children, and that's what Stefano did the other day, is like asking his friend for socks. He said, school, can we collect some socks all together?
Socks.
Exactly, because it's gonna get cold soon. And also some homeless, even if they got a place where to stay at the moment, some street homeless, they're not comfortable where they are, not because they don't have what they need around, but because they're so used to staying in the street that it's not easy just put them under a roof and leave them there.
You don't leave them there, eh?
Exactly. So that's another thing we should take in consideration.
And can I just say what I do most Christmases, and that's her son is my little elf every Christmas. So he knows a lot of the homeless. So but we also get children to write them letters.
Yes.
We do. We get children to write them letters. We'll be starting next week the Christmas cards, just positive thoughts, you know. And I always get the kids to write their first name and their age, not the area they're from or anything. We mix them all up. So, you know, I've got friends all over the country that get their kids to do things. Do you know what I mean? So there's many ways that children can help. But I would say, I think all schools should collect socks because they're light. it's one thing that the first thing a homeless person will ask you for if they're cold is, do you have any socks, Lola? Do you have any socks?
So if people do collect socks within their class, what should they then do with those socks? What's the best thing?
They should pair them up. We don't want holey socks, children. Fresh, clean socks. You can take daddy's socks if he lets you, but as long as they don't have holes in them, pair them up. And I think, like years ago, children used to collect this for one charity and that. I think all schools should have a recycling like a recycling box, you know, and charities can go there and collect them, or the children, not so much of the night time because obviously they'll be in bed, but maybe the children can hand out the socks with their teachers. And I've done it before with schools. I've taken School 21 out and I've got them on a sock mission, and I can tell you we never ever come home with socks.
So maybe the schools should get in contact with with one of your charities, or
yeah, of course,
and
chocolate as well, because I think children eat too much chocolate. Yeah, so normally I take all the chocolate. I take all the chocolate off the kids and I ask them to donate it to the homeless. I do.
Good. Perfect.
Dan, you were going to say something?
Yes, Dan.
One other quick thing that all schools can do, super easy to raise a lot of cash, simple mufti day. Speak to your teachers, organise a mufti day, £2, £1, whatever, collect it and give it to your local charity. If you're in Newham, you're going to give it to Lola's. And guys, just get out there and you can make an impact.
It's amazing to hear from all of you that are making an impact, including Onjali. Polly, can you give us something that young people can do?
Yeah, I mean, everything everyone said is a brilliant idea. I think the point about just acknowledging in a really friendly way when you see somebody who's on the street is really important, because the isolation and the feeling that you're completely invisible is something that everyone I've met who's been sleeping rough has talked about, about just that sheer invisibility. And I was once going into a tube station in London, and I walked past a guy who had obviously been sleeping rough, and he asked me the time. And so I stopped and I said, it's 5 o'clock, how are you? Bit of a chat. And then he said, you're the 27th person that I've asked the time, and you're the first person who stopped and told me the time. And that just made me think, and I know why people don't stop. Sometimes it's because you're really busy. Don't beat yourself up. You might be really, really busy and in a really big hurry, but a lot of it is fear and that kind of awkwardness. But it is so much more scary being that person than it is being you, is all I would say. So I really, it's just that acknowledgement that there's another human being in front of you with the same basic needs and wants as yourself. The only difference between you is you have your basic needs and wants met and they don't. And the other thing I would say is, and it'd be wrong if I sort of didn't mention this, because I wouldn't be in my job if I didn't believe that actually we can change things. So if you feel upset about homelessness, if you feel angry about homelessness, quite right, you should. This shouldn't be happening in an incredibly rich country like the country that we live in. And, there are things you can do. And actually, the shelter website, we've got a tool where you can write to your MP, for example. If a whole school or a whole class of children write to their local MP about this problem, she or he will pay attention to that. That's a big thing for a local MP. Write to your local council, sign petitions. We have a petition at Shelter. There are lots of petitions around about homelessness, because the reason things like this can continue, the reason like huge problems in society can continue, is because, in our own way, we all let them. We do. It's not a criticism, but there really are things we can do. And the more people that try and change it, the more likely it is that it will change.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've just seen from Amy, we're going to get writing. Yes. Thank
you.
you.
Words. Thank you so much. It's really brilliant to hear what people can do. And Onjali, you must be very happy with all those answers. It's really
they're amazing. And we're seeing so many things on the chat where people are just like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. It's amazing. I just want to add, so, you know, Polly's saying that, you know, you might not have time to stop. I'm still really shy around homeless people. I still feel a bit like, oh, I don't know if they want to talk to me, and, you know, have this stranger just come and interrupt them. So the other thing I do is, so Paper Chase and most stationery shops do really lovely envelopes. So I carry around about 5 or 6, and each one of them has just a chocolate and something else inside it, just to, you know, and a message saying, you know, I hope you enjoy this or something. You can just give that to them and run off. Like, I still run off. I still find it really hard to go up to someone and say hello. So you can, there's all manner of things you can do. And with the socks, kids, if they can be new socks, even better. Please have, because I did a sock drive, and I have to say that it was the smelliest day of my life. And it was from a beautiful school right next to me for refugees. And I just thought, okay, next time I need to remember to tell the kids, please let it be as new as possible, preferably still, you know, just not worn. But yeah, and I love the chocolate thing. They, you know, just and I also met a homeless man who lives near Covent Garden who loves to read. So whenever I asked him, what do you need? What do you need? Shall I get you this, this, and this? He goes, can you just like go and get me the newspaper, or go and get me, you know, a £1 book that I can just sit and read. I miss reading. And he had this like little mini library almost, and he would share the books out with all his other homeless friends. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask them what they actually want, and, you know, do it if you can. And if you can't, then that's okay. You can do it another time. But yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do. But it's lovely seeing everything happening with all these amazing schools and teachers.
It's really, really lovely. And you know that you can actually save chats. So if people want to save what's on the screen, you could actually, it's quite easy to do. So you can save the chat. So much great information. Also, if you go to the Waterstones website where you bought the tickets, all of the charities that are here are all linked, so you can find out more about them, and also to donate as well. There are so many great questions coming in. Some of them have been answered in the chat, but I've got a question from Abigail to Onjali. You always write about people who need help. How do you choose what to write about, and do you know what you want to write about next?
Oh gosh, that's so interesting. I kind of just take it with each book. So my publisher tells me they want another book, and I'm like, oh God, I've got to think of a story. Most of the books that I've written so far have centered on people that need help, but it's because I work in that field, and I work with refugees and women and children. So it's almost like a natural progression. I don't know what the next book's going to be about, because I think I've run out of all the people I try and help. But yeah, it's based on my experiences, and I think storytelling is easier when you can do that. And especially if you're surrounded by so many amazing people that you like their stories have to be involved somehow. But yeah, I don't know. I just take it as with each book, and it'll be the same with you. If you're a writer, you'll come up with ideas, and you'll go with it, whichever one is strongest for you.
Here's a question for Onjali as well. Are any of your books going to be made into a film? Because we would love to see all of them. That's Vicky.
Oh, that's so lovely. I don't know. I think especially now, I think the film and the arts industry are really struggling. So I think the last thing that they want to do is try and make a film of any of my books. But if they ever are made, I would love for you to come and see them. Fingers crossed, we never know. And I'm hoping if this book ever gets made, we'll have Dan as one of the drivers, and Hen, maybe the Catwoman, I don't know, and Polly in the background somewhere, and Laura and Rafi, and all of them will be there. So let's see, fingers crossed. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Here's a question from Daisy to say, can I donate tents? Is that a good thing to donate? Polly?
So I don't know about everywhere. Where we have shelter furniture stores, we do take donations of tents, and if they're in good enough condition, we will either reuse them or sell them. But that isn't everywhere in the country. Sometimes you can.
Lorraine,
okay.
You were shaking your head then. Do you want to put
yourself off mute?
Take yourself off mute, darling.
Oh, she's back on mute. Do it.
Terrible. I'm going to get rid of my assistant. She's terrible with the buttons. No, I would say where I live, no, please. I don't want no tents in Newham, because we've had a couple of incidences, one last week, not last week, sorry, last month, a gentleman was set on fire in Silvertown. I actually witnessed, I was actually sitting down having a cup of coffee with a homeless man about a year ago, and in front of my eyes, a member of the public decides to come over and pour nail varnish remover on the top of the tent and set the tent alight. So we've got we don't have the best of people in some parts of the areas we live. So in my eyes, I don't like to see, not just that for women, I think they're extremely vulnerable if living in a tent, because if they've got that zip down, they don't know what's happening around them. Most people stay awake all night, sleep all day. During the daytime, you've got the members of the public. If a woman is in a tent late at night on her own, who knows? We know. But if you're in the middle of a field, if you're in the middle of Kent and there's nowhere, and you're in a nice community, then yes, obviously give tents. It prevents from the wind and the rain, and it gives better shelter. But it depends. I would say, children, it depends what area you live.
Thank you so much. I can't believe it's 5:32.
Yes.
I just can't. This has just whizzed by so quickly. It's been so interesting and so inspiring, hasn't it, as well? I think, Onjali, your book's very important. Anyone who reads your book will have their eyes opened a lot. So it's we want to say a massive thank you to Onjali for writing it. Onjali, can you give us any last words, please?
Oh God, no, don't do that. You guys are superheroes. No. I just want to say to all the kids and the teachers and the parents watching that, don't be afraid to have conversations with your kids about this. I know that the book will tackle maybe a subject you're not comfortable with, but it's so important that we get talking, and the kids will come up with amazing solutions. I've seen them do it with my other 2 books, and it's absolutely mind-boggling. And Hen and Dan and Lorraine and Rafi and Laura and everyone at Night Stop and Polly and everyone at Shelter, like they need people to help. They need voices to come out and say, look, this is unacceptable. And you can all be a part of that. There's nothing too small, whether it's giving a chocolate bar or a smile, as Dan said, or writing a letter to your MP, or finding out, as Lorraine has said, like what your local homeless people need. It's amazing for you to even think about it. So I'd be so happy if you read the book and felt like you could do something with it. And for those of you who might feel a little bit stuck, just know that the book, the proceeds, at least 50% of the royalties, will be going to all of these amazing organizations. So you'll be helping anyway. Even if you borrow it from the library or you're buying the book, whatever it is, you'll be helping out. And the biggest thing you can do is talk about it. We need everyone to talk about it.
Yes, spread awareness.
Thank you so much, Onjali. Thank you, all of you, because that has been an absolutely incredible event. Don't forget, everyone, you go to the Waterstones website to find all these charities and get links to their sites. Then you can maybe get straight in touch with them as well, which would be really great. And don't forget, you can buy the book at your discount from waterstones.com with the code DING as well. So there's so much to think about. I hope you're all feeling really inspired by that, because I certainly am, and I'm very inspired by all of you. And I want to say massive thank you to you all for coming, and thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Chat as well, everyone. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Why didn't
Bye.
Bye. Why didn't you? Oh, she's took us off.
Yeah.
Oh, bless.
It's finished because they have a set time.
Oh.
You want to say she's coming tomorrow? So
yeah.